Okay.
Sounds good.
So thank you everybody for joining our weekly live Yoni Talks. I'm Adrienne, the Yoni nutritionist, and I specialize in nutrition and wellness for women's sexual health.
And my name is Krista Maria Lexi. I'm a sexologist, women's wisdom educator, and feminine embodiment coach. And today we are sharing on the benefits of sisterhood.
And the power of feminine relationships. Yeah, we've been friends now for maybe, I think, 3 or 4 months. And it was like, as soon as we met, it was just instant connection. But as with any relationship, we've had some challenges. There was a time where I thought, it's that's it. But we worked through it, and we really wanted to share this experience with you today. Just to not only that experience, but the experiences that we've had lately with spending time with such amazing women, and just how powerful that really is.
Yeah, so there's actually science behind the benefits of having sisters in your life, and we'll go into that as well. But it's probably just going to be a bit of a free flow conversation today. We'll share with you some tools, how to work through things with sisters that come up, that has worked for us and that we've seen work with other women. We'll share with you some potential triggers and wounds that can come up, and also the science behind why we would want to do that and to nurture our friendships with women. And this isn't to be exclusive. If you identify as woman, then you're a part of this conversation as well.
Yeah.
So, shall we start with our experience last Scorpio full moon?
Yeah, the Scorpio full moon.
Scorpio full moon.
Did anyone else feel that? That was what, like a month ago? Or
Yeah,
it was last
today.
Yeah, it was last
28 days ago today.
Right. So it was last full moon. Really? It was 28 days. Oh my God. Last full moon was the Scorpio full moon, and I don't know if anyone else remembers that, but I sure do, because it was intense. A lot of shit came up for me personally, and for both of us, and that's when we had our first little challenge, let's just say, and we breakthrough. Yeah, challenge that led to a breakthrough, and
instead of a breakup.
Yeah. Yes. I like that. Breaking through instead of breaking up. So that's kind of what we wanted to share. How shall we do this? Do you want me to kind of start? Because I feel like it kind of started for me anyway.
Okay. Yeah, we could just, you can share as much as you feel comfortable.
Okay. Okay, so where do I start? So it started with a breathwork class that we did together, and a lot of stuff for me came up in that breathwork class, particularly around me being afraid of receiving love. And directly after that breathwork class, we went for a walk on the beach together, and we were talking, kind of sharing our experiences, because we each were so passionate about each other's experiences. And we ended up meeting somebody that was in the class on the beach, and it was a guy. And we were just hanging out, talking with this man who was lovely, just hanging out, the three of us on the beach, having a good time, just really enjoying the time. But I felt triggered. And it was because of my own deep stuff. But what happened was I started noticing that I felt a little bit overpowered by Kristen in the conversation, and she didn't do it intentionally, but that was just me and my stuff that was coming up. And I didn't say anything to her about it that night, because I wanted to take some time to reflect on it and journal about these things that I'm feeling. And I'm like, I wonder if it has anything to do with the fact that I'm afraid of opening up to men especially, and receiving love. So I kind of did some work around that, and I decided to talk to Kristen about it, just to say, hey, this is how I'm feeling, this is how it made me feel, and this is what I'm doing sort of to work on it. And that's kind of what stemmed our breakthrough. That was the beginning of our breakthrough. So I talked to her about it, and I said, I know that you're not doing this intentionally. I would never want you to change the way that you are in order to make me feel comfortable, but this is how I'm feeling, and I'm not really sure how to navigate this when we're in this type of situation together again. And because it's going to come up again, like we're best friends, we're business partners, we hang out all the time. So when we're interacting with other people potentially of either the opposite sex or the same sex that we're attracted to, how are we going to be able to manage that between the two of us? Because we're both single, we're both interested, but also at the same time for me, how can I be in a point where I can receive? And how can I get to that place? Because I see Kristen, and she's so open to receiving, and she's so in her feminine and so in touch with that and so playful. And I just really admire that in her. And I'm like, I want to be like that. I want to do that too. So how can I do this? Mm-hmm. So I guess it kind of, it triggered me, and we talked about it, and we actually ended up kind of getting into a bit of not an argument, but kind of a heated conversation, because when I talked to her about this stuff, it triggered some things in her too, as it does in most relationships. So I guess, I don't know, did you want to kind of talk about how that made you feel?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
So when I already intuitively felt something was between Adrienne and I, and I actually asked Adrienne if the trigger she was experiencing was because of me, and if there was any way that I could support her in that, knowing that I was going to have an emotional response, because I'm
human.
And when I received the information, I sat with it for a little bit before responding. So we began with like voice messages, and before we actually met in person to chat, which was actually really good for me, because it gave me space to kind of collect my thoughts and to not come from a reactive place, and to use emotional intelligence and nonviolent communication. And yeah, the things that really worked for me was when Adrienne was owning the triggers in her, when she was saying, it's potentially because of this, or I'm sure you're not doing this on purpose, or that kind of thing. The things that didn't work for me were when there was like you kind of language, or when I felt like I was being blamed for something that I felt I wasn't doing, which Adrienne wasn't doing ever intentionally. And if it did come up, she would soon own that and be like, wait a second, like I wasn't saying that, you're doing this on purpose or whatever. What I found in myself that wasn't working for the flow of things was when I would get defensive and want to defend where I was at, not to not hear Adrienne, but just so she knew the place I was coming from. I was getting into a space of like trying to explain why, which later was a good idea, but in the moment she just needed to be heard. And so what I found really worked was making sure Adrienne felt heard, making sure that her emotions were validated by me, even if they didn't fit my version of reality. She still needed to feel heard. And then space was given to be able to explain what was going on for me in that process. And what was going on for me in that process was I've had experiences in the past, that I've put myself in, where I've dulled my shine for sisters to not overpower or outshine, and the universe didn't want that of me and put me in positions where if I did that it would fuck me up in the end. And so through those experiences I've learned not to, and it's taken me 32 years to get to a point where I'm like, actually that doesn't help, that doesn't serve anybody if I dull my shine. If I did that, Adrienne can't see what it is, that the qualities that she's wanting to embody. If I do that, I'm not being my authentic, genuine self, and multiple other reasons why I don't feel like it's a good idea to dull our shine. And so she didn't know that was going on for me. She didn't realize it's taken me 32 years to go, okay, I'm a beautiful, powerful woman, and I'm okay with that, and I'm going to embody it, even if I know that this can trigger people. and it wasn't until that we kind of got to a space where she understood that in me, that, you know, and she said multiple times, like, I don't want you to change how you act and how you are, but just so you know, this is how it makes me feel at the moment, and I'm going to work towards that not being the case. And then we came up with an idea of a safe word, so that if it happened again, you know, I know where she's at, and we you know, we came up with strategies to be able to work and to be able to support each other, because of course I don't want Adrienne to feel that way. And so yeah, finding ways where we can be mindful of each other and of each other's needs. And so yeah, that were for me the things that worked and the things that didn't work, that I feel we can apply to all relationships, but also in especially in sisterhood. Mm-hmm. And for me it's so important that we do have these conversations with each other face to face. I mean, yeah, we can seek advice from our friendships or our relationships or our family before we speak with whoever it is we're having these triggers with, just to gain a little bit of clarity. But it's really important that conversation makes it to the person we're talking about. That's a healthy version of gossip. The unhealthy version of gossip is we talk about somebody and we poison the minds of others on this particular person without giving them a chance to either explain where they're at and where they're coming from, or change their behavior. And that's part of evolution. You know, women have a larger right parietal lobe for this purpose. We can see the intricacies of relationship really well, and we can understand how we can improve them and evolve. And that doesn't happen if we just gossip about people. It happens if we bring that information to the person and share it, but do it in a way where we may be in fact wrong and our assumption can be entirely off point, and give that person the opportunity to explain what's going on. You know, we're all seeing through the filter of the mind and our conditioning, and we don't ever really know what's going on. So yeah, that's
can I add? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so for me too, like, it was the way I was communicating as well. Like, what worked for me was when you said, when you say this, it makes me feel like that, or so like, it was just the way that I was saying things. So if I could but with understanding that, it was so helpful, because I could just kind of think about the way that I was saying things and then kind of rephrase it to be more supportive, as opposed to, like, I wasn't on the attack, but like,
yeah,
do you know, so yeah, like,
it's a great point.
It's like saying, I didn't mean to accuse you, that wasn't my intention, but it was instead like, hey, this is the way that it makes me feel. Mm-hmm. Not you're doing this and you're doing that, but hey, like, this is the way that it makes me feel. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't intentionally
it was amazing.
Yeah, accusatory or anything like that. So it's a lot of the language too, like, just mm-hmm. really communicating openly and just really from your heart, mm-hmm. really from a place of love, as opposed to a place of attack. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the most important thing. And it's just so funny, because we had these were mostly voice conversations on WhatsApp. And then we both got massages, and after the massages we were totally relaxed and happy, and then we decided to go for dinner, and didn't we sit right beside a table of these two beautiful men?
About this far away from us.
So we're looking at each other going,
laughing.
Fuck. How are we going to navigate this? But we did, and it hasn't been an issue. We haven't had an issue with this never been brought up again. And it was like, after that, it was like we knew that this was like real, this relationship. And
we feel so safe with each other.
Yeah.
To share what our triggers are, knowing that we're going to be heard, knowing that, you know, we can be vulnerable and it's okay, that we're not going to be judged for how we are feeling and why we're feeling it. We're just going to be held. And it's such a powerful experience and relationship to have.
Yeah, and I feel so safe with you. Like, you know me more than, I don't know, anyone else, I feel like.
Yeah, and to get to those layers that we don't peel back. Yeah. Because we don't feel safe to.
It's just so healing, so healing. And
so beautiful.
Yeah, and so that experience really like propelled our relationship forward and like really deepened our connection and relationship. And can I share a little bit about our situation now?
Mm-hmm.
So right now we're hanging around a beautiful group of amazing women, and it's just the most, for me, like it's the most supportive and nurturing and soul building, like loving, supportive environment. I've never had this before with a group of women, and it's just the most nurturing, most amazing feeling. I feel so safe. I feel open to be my self and ridiculous and silly and everything, and it's really really empowering.
Totally.
Yeah.
And can I share the science?
Yes. Yeah.
So when women hang out with women, we actually produce more oxytocin, which lowers our stress levels. And there are studies that say that when women are in fight or flight, we actually actively seek female relationships because it's something that can soothe it. So not only does fight or flight or stress and anxiety propel us towards women, which the act in itself reduces anxiety and stress, but when we are around each other and sharing with each other, our anxiety and stress reduces because we're producing more oxytocin, which has such a powerful, like it's one of the most healthy things we can do for our body to eliminate stress in any way we can, through exercise, meditation, and through sisterhood. So that's why it is super important to be able to create these relationships. And a lot of us are harboring mother wounds and sister wounds and
grandmother wounds, generational.
Yeah, and societal, like, you know, there's songs, there are movies that divide sisters, you know, an example, That Boy Is Mine, like an old 90s R&B. A lot of R&B actually can be quite programming in its nature, and quite patriarchal, even though it sounds fucking beautiful
I love
for me.
that song.
Me too. But it's very divisive, and you know, women have like the core kind of fear of abandonment because our young are so dependent on us for a really long time. Abandonment means like death, and we are also kind of shaped in society to see support from in like a heteronormative relationship or nuclear family of being the family unit, the mother, the father, the children. And so there is this kind of fear that women are a competition and that we'll lose that kind of support, and it's an innate fear. Whereas for men, their innate fear, even though abandonment's horrible for everyone, is rejection. And that's because if they're rejected, it's like their seed isn't going to be spread, and their purpose on their biological purpose isn't going to be fulfilled. So when we understand that this abandonment, this core kind of fear of abandonment, is keeping us from our sisters, we can then empower ourselves and understand that when we hang out with sisters more, we actually trust them more, and then we see we have that support, and we're never going to be abandoned. If we have young, we can raise them with our sisters, and you know, if we have a male partner and they're supporting us, that's amazing as well. That's so beautiful, but it's not the end of the road. You know, it's not the only way that we can survive. And spending time with women can really, really help that. And then if we're harboring mother wounds, the way we see women and the feminine is the way we can see our sisters and the way we can judge them. And often our inner talk of ourselves is the way we'll judge our sisters as well. Sisterly betrayal in high school, you know, most of us have experienced some form of that, and we can carry that wound, and if we don't heal it, that's the way we can start seeing our sisters and relating to women and putting up these walls because we're terrified of essentially an irrational fear. So yeah,
I've come across a lot of some female friends who have confided in me and told me that they've struggled with some, let's just call it mommy issues, and I've noticed with these women, they do have a harder time connecting to other women the feminine, and they feel threatened by those relationships. And I think we just have to just really practice the nurturing of those relationships, especially when that threat is felt. That's when you need to practice it more. For me, I'm the opposite. I have daddy issues. So not to like generalize, but I'm just putting a name to it. But I struggle with in my relationships with men and being close to men and even just being friends with men. But I have a really easy time relating to women, opening up to women, having better relationships with women. I'm even exploring my first female relationship, which is super exciting for me. And I feel so safe and supported and seen and heard and loved. And it's so healing for me, especially with what I've been going through lately. And you've probably heard me talking a lot about the whole herpes experience that I've had recently, especially. And it's just like, I've never felt like this before. I've never felt this supported and loved in any of my other relationships before. So this is what all I need right now. So and beautiful. It's so beautiful.
I'm so happy for you.
And you too. Meeting you has totally changed my life. Totally changed my life. Like, we each came to Bali not knowing, like, we came for ourselves, but then when we met each other, things just started evolving, and like the universe opened up and things started happening for us. And it was just like, then we started meeting all these other women, like connected through each other, and just it's so beautiful. And now we've got this group of friends, and I just feel like we're like taking over the town because it's just so powerful and empowering. So just so lucky to have these friendships, and relationships in our lives. And there's still relationships, there's still work and communication and, mindfulness, but it has totally changed my whole experience in life, and especially in Bali, being alone, coming here, and then having this support group, like the family, but it's different. It's like, yeah.
So, if you are experiencing sister or mother wounds, or you think maybe you are because you're having these experiences with women and you're not feeling connected to them, there are ways that you can move through it. Being aware of it's amazing. Consciously, going about your relationships with women, especially. I also offer a feminine embodiment program where we work through that kind of stuff together, to access all of the different female archetypes and embody all of those archetypes, which often they can be shut down because of our wounding with the feminine. But yeah, find women's circles if you're not understanding, like if you don't really know how you can find a way to connect deeper with women. Women's circles are an amazing place. Red tent circles, full moon circles, they're popping up everywhere. Cacao ceremonies usually dominated by women, or there's female only plant medicine ceremonies. So that's a really beautiful way to connect in, because you do share with each other, and you drop into a really deep space quite quickly with one another, and it's a very safe and supportive space. Red tents especially, because you're doing shadow work, so everyone is just so vulnerable and so open, and you get to see the power of woman if it hasn't been something that's been in the forefront of your life, and you're feeling that it's something you would like.
Mm-hmm. And connect to your lady friends. Just be mindful about that. Maintain the relationships. Try to reach out every day or a couple times a week, just to maintain the connections, because it's so important. We all get caught up in our busy lives, but it's just so important to continue to nurture those relationships. I know for me, like in the past when I had jobs and then I would get into a relationship, I used to kind of not abandon my friends, but I used to kind of put them off to the side, and I will never ever do that ever again. Never again. Yeah. So try to maintain those connections, keep those relationships going, because it's just so healing and life-changing. There's no nutritional advice that I could say. you know, but eat chocolate.
Eat chocolate.
We all love chocolate.
Yeah.
You know, and buy each other flowers. Like, do nice things for your friends. You know, go for meals together. Go for walks together in nature. Spend quality time together. Quality time is the best. Make food together.
Yeah, I so prefer quality over quantity.
Yeah, so important. Yeah.
Well,
Does anybody have any questions?
doesn't look like it.
Doesn't look like it. Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for joining our talk.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. I hope it
And
helped. Oh yeah. So go for it.
So next week we are going to be, as it's Gay Pride Month, we're going to be focusing on sexual orientation, which is so fascinating and so beautiful, and just really enriches sexuality. And it's something that, you know, isn't often talked about, so it's also super exciting that we get to go deep into that. Well, half an hour deep.
Half an hour deep.
Ish.
It sounded funny. Oh yeah. Okay. Thanks everybody for joining, and we'll see you next week.
See you next
Much
week.
love.
Much
Mwah.
love. Ciao.